Michael Myers has officially found his new home. In this video, we're talking about Jason Voorhees' potential new home, which you might not like, and Michael Myers' biggest video game debut yet. How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champane, and yeah, this is like the worst recorded video I'll ever make because I don't even have a microphone. I thought, hey, I'll pre-record a video, I'll go on vacation for my wedding, I don't need my work computer, I don't need my microphone. Boy, was I wrong, because we got Halloween news today. So this segment is going before the ones I already filmed, but there's still cool stories, so you should watch the whole video. All right, so it's being reported that the rights battle for Michael Myers is finally wrapping up, and surprisingly, A24 is not only going to get the TV rights for Michael Myers, but they're allegedly also going to get the movie rights. There was a big news story that came out on the Wrap yesterday when I'm recording this video that was A24, I guess, has lost too much money on big releases like Beau is Afraid, for example. They lost $35 million, and now they kind of have to get into genre stuff. They have to get into the mainstream and make, action movies, horror movies, and kind of adopt a similar model to, I would say, Blumhouse, where they can spend cheap budgets on movies, but make sure they're high quality, and then they'll rake in hundreds of millions of dollars over time. Now, I wouldn't expect these movies like Halloween, for example, if this is all true, to replace the stuff they're already making. I think we'll still see movies like that because it's kind of I don't know, Marquez Brownlee has talked about this before, where Porsche is a super high performance vehicle, but they don't sell a lot of vehicles. They were struggling, so they introduced the mini-size SUV, and that's not really what people want from Porsche, but it turned out to be what the mainstream wanted from Porsche. So Porsche uses the money they make on those SUVs to fund the high performance racing vehicles. And that's very similar to what I think is going to happen with A24 in terms of these Halloween type movies or these bigger action movies, that they want to make big money on versus, I don't know, making a movie for $5 million and only getting a $40 or $50 million return. That's a good profit, but when you have a big bomb like Beau is Afraid, not having a huge reserve of cash can totally destroy your company. I mean, we see it in video games all the time, and of course we do see it in movies, but not as much just because the movie industry has been around so much longer. But basically what happens is they use their whole cash reserve on movies, and then when you have a big bomb, it can totally screw you. As for what I think about Michael Myers ending up at A24, I mean, I've talked about it here on the channel. I'm an A24 enjoyer, okay? I go to the theater, I see the movie once, I enjoy it for what it is, I leave the theater, I think about it maybe for a week or 2 weeks after, but the one thing I don't ever really do with A24 movies is revisit them. The subject matter never really hits hard for me. They're always very personal movies, very personal to the filmmaker. It's them trying to tell you their story. That's just stuff that I only need to see once, right? But in terms of a big blockbuster movie like Halloween, I get enjoyment out of watching stuff like that, or The Batman, or John Wick 4, or Mission Impossible, or Top Gun Maverick. Movies like that I watch multiple times over and over just because I like the action sequences, that the characters are kind of everymen, except for Michael Myers, of course. I like watching those movies because he runs around killing people in cool ways. But you get what I'm saying here. In A24, they don't really make those movies, but what we're hearing is that they are going to make those movies now, and I feel like the first one that they're going to do that with is Halloween, which it gets me excited tentatively, right? If this turns out to be some sort of art house feature where Michael Myers gets his entire backstory rewritten and he has a mask backstory. Sorry, I'm moving my arm because it hurts to hold my phone like this. Anyway, if they rewrite Michael Myers' backstory or something like that, and it's his mask is something he take what they did in Rob Zombie's movies 10 times farther, I'm out. That's not Halloween to me. I'm sorry. That's just not gonna work out for me. They're just gonna use the name to sell a completely different movie. Just what we've seen in other franchises before, that's not gonna work for me. But if they try to make a period piece, set it in the 80s, or they tell a new story with Michael Myers centered around Halloween, or anything that's actually respectful to the original movie, I'm in, and I think they could do that. And the one cool thing about A24 is that what they're known for is an extremely high bar of quality. So if they can bring that ethos to these action movies, these horror movies that they want to make, I think it could be pretty damn cool, and everyone kind of wins because what I was saying at the beginning of this video, they're not going to stop making the stuff that everyone else wants to see, which is cool. Also, it seems like they're getting the TV rights as well, so that synergistic look and feel I was talking about in my other videos could happen where, they tie in and out of each other. I hope that doesn't happen. It never really works out. I mean, look at how things are turning out with the MCU and having TV shows on Disney Plus. No one really cares. Like, they put one of their most important stories in Secret Invasion and no one saw it. So that's probably going to screw up a lot of the movies going forward. And I don't want that to happen with Halloween. But yeah, shout out to all the people in my comments on the video I did about Michael versus Jason. It looks like that could actually happen now because A24 has the rights to Friday and they have the rights to Halloween. So if they get the TV rights to Friday, I think they'll be able to finagle the movie rights as well, especially if whatever they make in the Halloween franchise ends up being good. All right, my arm hurts. That's all I got. Thanks for watching this video with terrible audio and video quality. Watch the rest of the video. I talk about Blumhouse wanting to buy Friday the 13th and Michael Myers and Fortnite. How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champane, and this is my horror channel. This is a huge week for me. I've talked about it a few times here on the channel, but I'm getting married this week on Friday the 13th. I wanted to throw together a quick video before I head to Chicago, and also thank you for all the support so far this Halloween season. This is the biggest one yet. I don't really know how else to say it. I mean, excluding, of course, Happy Halloween. That's the biggest video I've ever made, and I love it. But yeah, you guys have showed up this Halloween season, and I just wanted to say thank you. So the first thing I want to talk about today is Friday the 13th. So if you want a quick recap on everything going on with that franchise, it's kind of like very closely intertwined with what's happening with Halloween, because the biggest thing that we have to look forward to so far that's been confirmed is a new TV show from A24 and Peacock, which is weird because technically that means Friday the 13th is going to end up at Universal in a weird ipso facto way, but Universal isn't making the show. It's A24 making the show with Brian Fuller, who's the guy behind Hannibal. He's an awesome director, awesome writer, and I can't wait to see what he does with Jason Voorhees lore. I've been kind of 50-50 on the TV show though, just because I feel like it cheapens franchises no matter what when you move them over to TV. It's definitely gotten better over the past few decades in that sense, just because there's been big prestige stuff like The Mandalorian, for example. There's been Stephen King stuff. Welcome to Derry is going to come out on HBO Max. Like, HBO itself has done a ton of legwork in terms of making TV a destination spot for big franchises. So yeah, things have definitely gotten better. But I grew up in the 90s, which is a time when, like, you know, if a big franchise got a TV show, that usually meant they didn't think it was big enough for movies anymore, and that was like a nail in the coffin, right? Like, it was a situation where this franchise was probably dead. And that's kind of what's putting Halloween in lockstep with Friday the 13th, because I've talked about it a lot, but A24 is also allegedly making a Halloween show, which is pretty cool, and Paramount is also allegedly going to pick up the rights for a Halloween movie. They're in a battle with Miramax right now over the movie rights, which is weird because Miramax owns the rights, and Malik Akkad is kind of like the puppet master overlord, saying whoever pays me the most money and comes to me with the best pitch is going to get to make a Halloween movie. And speaking of Paramount, that's where Friday the 13th is allegedly going to end up as well, which honestly, if you look at the past 5 years, Paramount is just the best in terms of pretty much any original movie you're talking about or franchise movie. Top Gun Maverick, one of my favorite movies of all time. I've probably seen it 6 or 7 times since it came out, since I love it so much. Of course, Paramount also distributes the Mission Impossible movies for Tom Cruise. I absolutely love those movies. Mission Impossible Fallout, I don't talk about regular movies here a lot on this channel, but man, that is one of my all-time favorite movies, and the Halo jump scene is one of the best ever. Of course, they successfully revitalized Scream with Scream 5, and then Scream 6 came out, and in my opinion at least, it's the better of the two movies. So if you look at all of the different options we have between Universal, Warner Brothers, Paramount, I guess A24, I think Paramount is a really good spot for both Friday the 13th and Halloween to end up. I have no problems there. Now, I mentioned that you might not like where it ends up though, and I've just been saying a bunch of good things about where it's going to end up, so let me explain that. So because of the whole Exorcist believer situation where, you know, the movie's coming out, it's getting terrible reviews, it's not doing well in the theaters, there was a press tour though, where they were trying to get as much press as possible around the movie, and of course, Jason Blum was asked about Halloween. We talked about that in my last video. He was also asked though about Friday the 13th, and this is what he had to say. I had this all planned out. I was going to tell you why this was exciting news. It wasn't Jason Blum who said this, it was Ryan Turek. He's like a VP over there. You guys know who he is if you've watched this channel before, I think. Anyway, he said, Jason and I are definitely in agreement that Friday the 13th is the thing we would love to get our hands on. I really want to go back to the basics. You don't need too many ingredients for a Friday the 13th film. You need a summer camp, you need campers, and you you need Jason Voorhees in a mask. Look, I've gone on the record saying Halloween is the ultimate slasher film for me. That's my favorite slasher film of all time, but Friday the 13th as a franchise is one that I just bow down to. I just love everything about it. And if we're able to live in both worlds like we do with Halloween, then to be able to live at Crystal Lake for a while would be so incredible. All right, I know what everyone's going to say. They don't want Blumhouse being the production company on a Friday the 13th movie because of what happened with Halloween Ends. But what I will say in this scenario is if Ryan Turek gets more control over this production and makes sure that the movie is done the way he wants it to be, I don't think we have anything to worry about, right? Like, he was semi up and coming in terms of like being an on-set executive producer or whatever, or on-set producer for the Halloween movies. Now he is totally established. He knows what he's doing. He's like Jason Blum's right-hand man at this point, and he's probably one of the biggest reasons the Halloween rights were acquired by Blumhouse in the first place. He knows Friday the 13th. I have talked to this dude multiple times. He knows his shit when it comes to horror movies. He is in that AMC History of Horror show that Eli Roth kind of put out every year on AMC over the past couple of years. And when he's on camera talking about these slasher franchises, you can just immediately tell that this dude's the real deal. He's practically like a horror genius. I've always looked up to him in terms of like how to talk about horror movies and slasher movies. And honestly, he's kind of a reason that I committed to this channel so hard way back, like a long time ago. I think it was in 2017 or 2018. I made a video called Halloween 2, Why It Had to Die or something like that. And he was a commenter on it. He said this was a great video, very well researched, and that always meant a lot to me. So it made me think, oh, I have good ideas about horror. I should keep making videos for this channel. So yeah, I am a little bit biased towards this guy, but I've talked to him quite a few times since then, and I think there's no one better to be at the helm of a Friday the 13th movie. And even more than Halloween, I think Friday the 13th lends itself well to that Blumhouse style of making movies, where it's like you do it literally as cheap as possible, right? Like they get some up and comers that aren't really well known in the industry to be in the movie, kind of like Allison and her friends in Halloween 2018, and they get an up and coming filmmaker. Now, that seems to be also their biggest problem. They give a lot of control to the filmmakers, other than the core Blumhouse rules, which are generally no action scenes, no speaking extras, and keep everything as cheap as possible. So outside of those rules, they get a lot of creative control, and it works for some people, it doesn't work for others. Obviously, David Gordon Green, it worked well for him. He came back multiple times to make 3 Halloween movies and then this new Exorcist, and the results were obviously mixed for a lot of people, but if they pick the right person to make this Friday the 13th movie, I think it could turn out extremely good. Like the idea of stripping it back to basics, making sure that it's just Camp Crystal Lake full of a bunch of teenagers who get cut up by Jason Voorhees wearing a hockey mask, that's what needs to happen at the end of the day. So to just hear that from Turek over at Blumhouse, that kind of gets me excited about the possibility. The other option though, of course, is Spyglass. They're the company that made Scream 5 and 6. I think they could do just as excellent of a job. I mean, they picked incredible directors for Scream 5 and 6 and 7 now. We got Radio Silence for 5 and 6. We've got Christopher Landon for 7. I don't think you could do much better with directors of a Scream movie. And honestly, if they end up getting Friday the 13th, I think those are good picks for the Friday the 13th franchise, specifically Radio Silence. They would absolutely slaughter a Friday the 13th movie. Regardless, with all this being said, things are really looking up for Friday the 13th right now. I mean, we have the TV show coming, a new movie can definitely happen, and I believe that it probably will happen. Like I would say I'm 99% sure, because Victor Miller and Sean Cunningham, you know, Horror Inc. and Victor Miller, they had to work together for this Camp Crystal Lake show. So what they want to work together for a movie, right? Like shows are nice, shows make money, movies make the most money, and they understand that. So if they're already willing to work together for a TV show, they're probably willing to work together for a new film, which at the end of the day only benefits us as fans. So that's it for Friday the 13th. Let's move on to Halloween. So the updates here this week are all about video games. We talked about the TV shows, we talked about the movies. I briefly hinted at the video game in my last video, but I've since heard from other people who are in the know. I feel very confident about what I've been putting out there, in the sense that, you know, it's not probably going to be an asymmetrical horror game that we end up seeing with Michael, and what we will see lines up with all these rumors we've been hearing about Supermassive Games making a Scream game. They're allegedly working on a lot of different horror IP right now, and in terms of games, I could not be more excited about this, just because I love all of Supermassive's games. All the Dark Pictures games are good, The Quarry is amazing, and so is Until Dawn. So if these rumors do end up coming true, it's only, again, a big win for us horror fans. But Michael is also making his debut in another game this Halloween season, and it's it's one that honestly shocked me, and it's also shocking how well it's being handled. So Fortnite is the game, and yeah, so during their Fortnitemares event, which is like a Halloween overhaul for the game, last year they had Ash Williams. It was an Evil Dead 2 skin. You know, he had an emote where he slams the cellar door. He has his boomstick. It's like an incredible skin, and honestly, if I'm being real, I like Fortnite. I like playing with my friends. This has been the busiest year for video games ever, so I only logged in about a year ago just to buy Ash so I could play as him in the game, and it was really fun. But this year, they're doing Michael Myers for the Fortnitemares event, and I don't know if you guys saw my Twitter. You should definitely follow me over there, but the emote that comes along with Michael Myers is just, it's perfect. It shows that whoever came up with this partnership or worked on this skin and this emote, they really understand and care about the franchise, and I think that's so cool. So the emote you get with him is him pulling out a little synthesizer, and with his right hand he's playing the higher notes of the Halloween theme, and then with his left hand he pulls out the knife and does the low notes. I wish I could play it here on YouTube, but I'll get copyright striked and then I won't make any money in this video, so it's going to be like a shameless plug where I tell you go over to my Twitter. It's like the latest thing I probably tweeted by the time you're seeing this video, and yeah, you can see a little clip of Michael Myers playing his iconic theme on the synthesizer. But that's not really all I want to praise here. The costume itself is impeccable. They got the coveralls, they got the boots, they got the little undershirt for him, but the mask sculpt, it fits really well into Fortnite, but it also pulls from the best Michael Myers masks. It looks like the one kind of from 2018, but mostly like the original one or the one from the flashback in Kills. It looks just absolutely phenomenal, and I think it's like his backpack or something, but he comes along with a little charm that's like the jack-o'-lantern from Halloween 1 with a knife sticking out of it. I think this is so cool to see horror villains like Michael Myers in games like Fortnite, because it's a game that everyone plays, right? Like I talk about all the time when I was a kid, Fear Fest introduced me to Halloween because I got to see edited versions of these movies, starting with Halloween 4, I'm pretty sure, back in the day, and that got me into the franchise and made me a lifelong fan, to the point where Michael Myers is one of my favorite movie characters, if not my all-time favorite movie characters. So if Fortnite was around when I was a kid, around the same age, I'd probably be playing it, and seeing this character who looks this cool in the item shop holding a big butcher knife and having a Halloween jack-o'-lantern kind of coming with him, I would have begged my parents for their credit card and I would have bought that skin with their money immediately, and I probably would have wanted to watch the movies, and then I would have seen them on Fear Fest maybe, or on AMC Plus, or, you know, if it was me, I probably would have snuck it and just watched the VHS and seen boobs when I was like 8 years old. I'm just being honest. The annoying thing is when this was announced, like we got the official picture of him and we see this emote video, but they don't say the release date of the character. I went back to last year and Ash was released around October 22nd in the item shop, and yeah, I'm assuming Michael will either be around the same time or a little bit later, closer to Halloween. But yeah, I will be buying this game. I'll be playing Fortnite as Michael Myers. Maybe you'll see me, my username, I'm not going to say my username. If you want it, follow me on Twitter and then request a DM me and tell me your name, and we'll add each other on Epic. I'm not going to dox myself. It's not really doxing, it's just I don't want that many friend requests because I hate the Epic Game Store as it is. But yeah, that's not the only video game news with Michael, because I don't know if you guys saw this a couple weeks ago. I don't know how I missed it because I'm a huge Mortal Kombat fan, but Ed Boon put out a poster that featured a bunch of characters like Jason, Freddy, Ghostface, and of course Michael Myers, and there was checks on some and X's on the others, and most importantly there was a question mark over Michael Myers. Now if you look at the history of Mortal Kombat, these characters have shown up in Mortal Kombat games, like Jason, the Alien, Predator, Freddy. All of them have shown up in Mortal Kombat in the past, but the one that hasn't is of course Michael Myers. So having him as a DLC fighter in Mortal Kombat 1 would be absolutely incredible. I can just see him now fighting against Peacemaker, you know, the Cena one, and it just makes me so happy. So it seems like the right situation with Halloween is the most streamlined it's ever been, to the point where he can appear in multiple games like Dead by Daylight, Fortnite, and then potentially Mortal Kombat 1. Ed Boon has also talked about making a horror fighting game, which would be, you guys know, I would just absolutely shit my pants if that ever happened. But in terms of rights, it seems like everything is finally working out. Halloween is potentially ending up where it's supposed to in the movie and TV rights. Friday the 13th has action going on. We've gotten all these updates on A Nightmare on Elm Street. The Wes Craven estate is actively taking pitches, and it looks like new movement is happening there. So the future of the horror franchises is bright. And on top of that, if you go check out Terrifier 2 in theaters on November 1st, they're going to play a 3-minute long trailer for Terrifier 3 with it. So yeah, as far as I'm concerned, the big four slasher icons, Michael, Freddy, Jason, and Art the Clown, they're all doing extremely well, and it shouldn't be long before we hear more about what's coming from these characters. But yeah, that's my horror update update for the week. Again, thank you so much for clicking on my videos this year. It makes me so happy. I promise this will be the year where I don't take 5 months off after Halloween season. I'm gonna keep this going just because it's too much fun not to. You know, it's a lot of work keeping this and PS Ready going, but it's worth it because I love talking about horror movies, and it just makes me happy that there are so many other horror fans out there who enjoy talking in my comments. I still do my best to answer every single one. It just gets hard when the views are as high as they are lately. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's a first world problem, I guess. I hate that term. But yeah, thank you so much. I'll see you guys when I get back from my honeymoon. As always, my name is Jimmy Champane. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and shape on.